All right, foot to the football as we kick off another brand new day here from the heart of the country, from Studio G. Fighting for you for the foxhole of freedom like I do every single day. I'm glad to have you on board the Steve Gruber Show. Who do you want in your foxhole? Honestly, who do you want there when things hit the fan and it's time to figure out how to get things done? Think about that. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one. 5 people now arrested in Cincinnati after a number of white people were attacked by groups of black assailants over the weekend in what appeared to be racially motivated violence. Number 2, the Trump administration thumbing its nose at climate panicans and tree huggers with a move to reopen massive offshore exploration in California. America first is the message. And number 3, President Trump is raking in the wins on the trade front. The latest deal with the European Union serving as the crown jewel. In 75 minutes away from the cameras, Trump secured and finished an additional $600 billion in investment from the EU and a promise to buy $750 billion of American energy, mostly liquefied natural gas. The EU is opening up their markets to American goods, dropping most tariffs to zero, while the U.S. will collect a 15% across-the-board tariff on European goods. The TDS media doesn't even know how to respond. They asked EU President Ursula von der Leyen what the U.S. is conceding in this deal because it seems too good to be true. Her response, here it is.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for the EU Commission President. What are the U.S. concessions? What is the U.S. giving up in the deal, if anything?
So the starting point was an imbalance, a surplus on our side and a deficit on the U.S. side. And we wanted to rebalance the trade relation. And we wanted to do it in a way that trade goes on between the two of us across the Atlantic, because the two biggest economies should have a good trade flow between us. And I think we hit exactly the point we wanted to find. Rebalance, but enable trade on both sides, which means good jobs on both sides of the Atlantic, means prosperity on both sides of the Atlantic, and that was important for us.
Yeah, there you go. Good jobs, both sides of the Atlantic. Trump is leveling the playing field with a bulldozer. And the media is having to reluctantly admit it's a win. It's a huge win. After calling his Scotland visit nothing more than a taxpayer-funded golf trip. That's what they did at first. Well, hell of a golf trip. Talk about a hole in one. This is from the Financial Times. Quote, "There is no hiding the fact that the EU was rolled over by the Trump juggernaut," said one ambassador. "Trump worked out exactly where our pain threshold is." Yeah, he did. Here's CNN forced to report on it as well, which I can tell you they hate. Listen to this.
Isabel, the bottom line is this is the biggest trade deal in President Trump's effort to effectively reshape the global trading order. That has been one of his central priorities since taking office in January. He's been issuing many threats of tariffs, but they clearly have been working in terms of bringing other countries, allies, and adversaries alike, in some cases, to the negotiating table. And the latest example was today here in Scotland when the leader of the European Commission, who of course is negotiating for the European Union, she agreed to a 15% across-the-board tariff. Now that is significantly higher than the 10% tariffs in existence now, but it's much lower than the 30% threat that was coming on Friday and the 50% threat that was made in May. So clearly there has been an instance where the president has been using his threats of higher tariffs as a negotiating tactic, and in this case it certainly worked.
Yeah. It has to be a huge win. It has to be. If Chicken Noodle News can't even figure out how to spin this into a negative press day, they can't. It's a huge win for Donald Trump, for this country, for America. Most Democrats refuse to concede that Trump knows what he's doing, exactly what he's doing, choosing instead to resort to the talking point that any tariff we impose on another nation is bad, which really just has to do with Orange Man bad and that whole worldview. But look, they're coming into line. Bill Maher, at the very least, starting to realize that Donald Trump might just know exactly what he's doing when it comes to trade dominance. He, too, like CNN, forced to admit what he couldn't deny. Here it is.
Tariffs. Now, I remember I, along with probably most people, were saying at the beginning, oh, you know, by the 4th of July, somebody had to think how the country was, the economy was going to be tanked by then. And I was kind of like, well, that seems right to me, but that didn't happen. Now, it could happen tomorrow. I'm just saying that's reality. So let's work first from the reality of that, not from I just hate Donald Trump. Because that's boring and doesn't get us anywhere and leads you to dishonesty. Because the truth is, I don't know what his strategy is. But look, the stock market is at record highs. I know not everybody lives by the stock market, but I also drive around. I don't see a country in a depression at all. I see people out there just living their lives. And I would have thought, and I got to own it, that these tariffs were going to sink this economy by this time, and they didn't.
Bill Maher finally telling the truth. They didn't. Imagine that, dealing in facts. It's something that the rest of Bill Maher's party can't seem to wrap their heads around. But world leaders everywhere are lining up to deal with the facts and make a deal. The UK's prime minister met with President Trump yesterday, eager to hash out his own deal, probably in part because the EU has honestly been labeled a humiliation for European countries. Man, in France, they're hopping mad. Now we've seen the UK trying to get its own deal on the table. And Trump says that's fine by him. It strengthens alliances between the U.S. and the UK even further. This, after a historic trade deal was struck with Japan just a few days ago. You see, it's one giant deal after another. That one included almost $600 billion investing in the U.S. on behalf of Japan, aimed at revitalizing American energy production, semiconductor research, critical minerals mining, and more, while expanding market access for American producers in agriculture, energy, and manufacturing. Of significant note, Japan is going to increase imports of American rice by 75%. That's huge for a country that already has their own rice industry. They're going to buy $8 billion worth of American food in the meantime. Good news. And what's really neat, he's using trade for more than just reclaiming fair trade. He's actually using it to settle wars around the world as well. Listen to this.
If I weren't around, you'd have right now 6 major wars going on. India would be fighting with Pakistan. You see what we just did yesterday with 2 nations that we're trading with. And during the trade, I said, I'm not going to do any trade deal unless you guys settle your differences. And we got it settled in 24 hours. I mean, they just announced it was settled, which was a tremendous thing. But Serbia, Kosovo is another one. We have many hotspots that were at war. I think a very big one was India and Pakistan, because you're talking about 2 nuclear nations. That was a very big one. But
yeah, there it is. The most recent ceasefire they spoke of course, between Thailand and Cambodia. Days of deadly fighting on the border had already killed dozens, but like Trump said, he put a stop to that quickly and effectively by saying, look, we'll do trade deals with you, but not if you're at war. If you're fighting, no trade deal. What happens? They say, hey, let's get a trade deal. It's like the war between Rwanda and Congo. Comes to an end after 30 years. And he's not done yet. We got a lot more to talk about here. These trade deals are far-reaching, have big implications, and when CNN and Bill Maher have to admit the truth that they're great deals for America and nobody else, well then, something good is going on. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board the Truth Train. We'll be right back. Like I said, Donald Trump's not done yet. Apparently, feeling emboldened by his success, he issued this admonition to President Putin yesterday as well, saying, look, you need to get this war done now. Listen to this.
I would have said 5 times we would have had a deal. I've spoken to President Putin a lot. I got along with him very well. But 5 times, and every time 4 times maybe, but we've had discussions. You and I have had discussions. Yeah. We thought we had that settled numerous times. And then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city like Kiev and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street. And I say, that's not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him. So we're going to have to look, and I'm going to reduce that 50 days that I gave him to a lesser number because I think I already know the answer what's going to happen.
Well, we'll see. He's reducing that timeline to 2 weeks, by the way, 2 weeks. And if he said that doesn't happen, he will add severe sanctions on Russia's key trading partners. We'll see how that turns out. It's not the first time that Trump has expressed his disappointment at Putin, but we've yet to see any meaningful attempts at peace out of this effort. Maybe Trump can use his momentum to change that. We'll see. But there's another angle on this whole trade front, and that's our trade war with China, of course. As Trump strengthens alliance after alliance with all of these trading partners, in fact, the EU deal it's a mega deal. It's the biggest of all. He's really tightening the screws on China as a result, where Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is right now trying to hammer out a trade deal with them before an August 12th deadline. Here was Bessent on the situation before he headed out of town. Listen.
Trade is in a good place, and I think we're going to be able to move on to the bigger issue of China needing to rebalance. It is the most imbalanced, unbalanced economy in the history of the world. They now account for 30% of global manufacturing. That's unsustainable. They have a real estate downturn. Many would call it a crisis. Manufacturing has slumped, and they can't export their economic problems to the rest of the world. They need to solve them. One of the ways to solve them is to create a consumer economy.
Yeah. With these other trade deals, Trump is very effectively reducing not only our dependence, but Europe's dependence as well on Chinese markets, which is a good thing, you see. If we make them dependent on our markets and not Chinese markets, we win. You win. Everybody wins. If you notice, a lot of these deals involve some kind of investment in semiconductor research and critical minerals, which is where China really has a stronghold right now. But Trump is laying the groundwork and laying it fast to bring our competition in those markets up. China is losing its leverage, and it's growing more and more isolated. It relies heavily on its exports, almost exclusively. But the countries with the most purchasing power, the U.S. and the EU, are looking to make a change, and it's high time. China relies on stolen intellectual property and unethical child labor, among other things, to get a leg up on trade. But hopefully, Secretary Bessent, in his visit this week, could pull in the reins in a way that serves American interests. While we wait on that, Trump doesn't rest. He says he has a plan to slash prescription prices by as much as 30 to 80% through an executive order he'll be signing today, about 9 o'clock this morning. Trump posted to Truth Social yesterday about how embarrassingly expensive U.S. drugs are because we subsidize the research and development costs for the rest of the world. Trump says, well, no more. He wrote, quote, campaign contributions can do wonders, referring to Big Pharma's sneaky support of many candidates. But he says, not with me and not with the Republican Party. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to cut prescription prices. That's what I voted for, doing the right thing, by the way. He's done it with the EU. I'm confident he'll do it with China. He's doing it with Big Pharma. It's just another big win after another win after another big win. Meanwhile, here at home, Donald Trump had talked about a rebate, and now Senator Hawley of Missouri is putting pen to paper on that. What would that mean? Well, if you're an individual making less than $75,000, it would mean $600 to you, and $600 to every person in your household. If you're an individual, if you're a $112,000 earner and you're the head of household, you'll get $600 checks. $150,000 joint household income for joint filers. So there's money to be had here. It's a big deal. Hawley introducing this legislation. Hawley also co-authored the legislation created COVID-19 pandemic stimulus checks in 2020. alongside independent Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, which provided Americans up to $1,200 to help with financial hardships created by the pandemic. But, of course, they are phased out when you get to a certain income level. The rebate check for those who make more than that would be reduced by 5%, it says. So we'll see. Will there be checks coming for everybody? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe this money just goes right back into the economy. Maybe. But the point of this is that there's good news overseas with the EU deal. Good news here because of tariffs. All these tariffs that the Democrats kept telling you were going to destroy the economy, ruin America, send inflation soaring. Well, none of that turned out to be true, now did it? When Trump said, I've got this, I know what I'm doing, well, he was right. Speaking of Big Pharma, by the way, did you know that 60 million Americans have parasites? Now, that's a frightening number, isn't it? They invade your body when you don't know it, wreaking havoc on your gut, your energy level, even your brain and the mainstream medical system. They don't want you thinking about this because one great cleanse can change your life and, well, you won't need them as much anymore. So the Wellness Company has a solution for you. Ivermectin and mebendazole. FDA-approved parasite solutions now combined in one cleanse combo. Just fill out a brief medical intake form. Get your 3-month supply. Lots of parasite cleanses are all over social media, but not the gold standard. Maha's officially here. The Wellness Company is making hard-to-get medications accessible to you so you can live your best life. All you need to do, go to twc.health/Gruber, twc.health/Gruber. You can find out more. You'll save $60 off the package and get free shipping as well. Don't wait. Cleanse your body today. twc.health/Gruber. When we come back, we're going to have a conversation about Chinese espionage and national security. And then later we're going to talk about your money. The stock market doing exceptionally well right now. Are you on that train? Well, we're going to check into it after this. Glad to have you here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back. All right, back to it now. Greatly appreciate you being here. Pretty shocking. We got an arraignment in the Traverse City stabbing case. The Traverse City stabbing case. Bradford James Gill. Apparently, they called him BJ when he was in high school. Apparently, maybe in the Pellston area. He stabbed 11 people at the Traverse City Walmart Saturday, you know that, but his bond set at $100,000. Seems remarkable to me. Now, this, according to all accounts now, Bradford James Gill has a long history of mental illness and problems, paranoid schizophrenic. In fact, the police were looking for him, but he was homeless prior to that attack. They were on the lookout for him. Disoriented during the proceedings. We're going to have some comments. We actually have a bit of comment from him during his arraignment. It's a video arraignment. Strange comments. He does not appear to be normal. He might be deemed incapable of standing trial. We'll see. But he appeared disoriented during the arraignment. Judge Rogers addressed the court. It certainly is one of the most heinous accusations from an individual that's been before this court in 30 years. But $100,000 has a whole lot of people not impressed. Not impressed with that number. I think it should have been a lot higher. So we will keep an eye on that and make sure that you are up to speed when that happens. It'll be in mid-August now when he goes back to court, so it'll be a bit before we get back to James Gill. All right, now through the rest of this month, we have a chance to save you some money on My Pure Health. My Pure Health, a chance to lose weight the old-fashioned way. Go to GruberHealth.com, find out how you get it done. GruberHealth.com. Figure out what's wrong with your metabolism, what's going on with your body. Don't put a bunch of fake food in your body. Use real food and real solutions. My Pure Health. You can find out more at GruberHealth.com. We've helped hundreds of people lose thousands of pounds and save their lives without having to get an injection every week either. GruberHealth.com. Check it out right now and you'll find out more. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. Chinese espionage. Look, we've talked about it a lot here recently because of what happened with the University of Michigan students getting caught bringing agricultural products, fungus into this country. Potentially agro-terrorism, right? And we've been looking at that. Of course, they're willing to steal our intellectual property and targeting U.S. citizens as well. Plus, they have a lot of Chinese nationals living right here in the United States, and 30,000 came across Joe Biden's open border. So you've got that going on. Joining me now is Nicholas Eftimiadis, a national security expert and author, a former U.S. intelligence official, Penn State Homeland Security professor, and one of the country's leading experts on Chinese espionage and national security. Nicholas, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Really appreciate it. Let me talk just for a minute about this event here at the University of Michigan. Two events, actually. One with a group of 5 Chinese students going up and taking photographs of military exercises when the Taiwanese military was at Camp Grayling, the largest training camp in America. Happens to be in northern Michigan. This happened a few months ago. They claimed to be journalists. They weren't. They were all arrested. You've got 3 more coming into the United States. University of Michigan students bringing agricultural pathogens that could damage the corn, wheat, the beans, the rice, could really damage American agriculture. How concerning is that when you hear headlines like that?
Well, of course, it's very concerning. And in fact, those are only 2 cases out of 7 that happened at a University of Michigan. So there were several others as well that didn't make as much press. So yeah, what it shows us is that China uses what we call a whole of society approach to conduct espionage, which is a lot different from the way the West sees it. You know, the West, they're targeting foreign intelligence firms, foreign militaries. Not so in China. They attack and they look at all of society for their collection efforts, and they use all of society, which means students, businesses, state-owned enterprises. So it's what we call collectively a whole of society approach, much more difficult to counter.
So what it is I don't know the term exactly in Mandarin. I don't speak Mandarin, Nicholas, I'm going to tell you that, but it's everything under heaven belongs to China. That's what they believe. When we hear about Taiwan being a rogue province, they believe America is a rogue province. We've talked about this program extensively. But you've written extensively about the growing espionage threat to the United States. You had all these people come over the open border. What are your biggest concerns when you look at Chinese aggression? I mean, they're running an asymmetrical war against America right now. We may not realize we're at war, but they realize it, and they play cards on that front every day, don't they?
They do, and they call that unrestricted warfare, which for them includes everything from drug warfare, counterfeit warfare. I mean, you know, the amount of counterfeits that they ship into the country for the United States that impact our economy are 87% of them globally come from China. And that is almost 3 times as much as the global drug trade. So every aspect to take advantage of in our economy, in our society, our political influence, they do. It's their construct of unrestricted warfare. I examined for this book 865 cases of covert influence, espionage, economic espionage, and theft of technology. And they are absolutely rampant. And the problem, my biggest concern, the things that keep me up at night, is that we're not structured to handle this. You know, the FBI does 2 cases a day on China. They get 1 every 12 hours. That's 730 cases a year. And each one takes months to resolve, spread over 56 field offices. There are thousands of cases in the rear. And that's just the FBI. We are currently incapable of handling this type of unrestricted warfare, and in particular, the espionage.
What would make us capable of handling it? That would be my answer. What would make us capable?
I can tell you, we need 2 things. A, we need a national strategy on how to contend with this. We need something that's going to live past the Trump administration, because China is very patient and they'll just wait things out. And then 2, we need effective deterrence. It doesn't do any good when you have 15,000 critical infrastructure operations in the United States penetrated, and our response is, well, let's build more security. Let's build more cybersecurity. That's just cost. It's cost added into the American consumer. And if it's a government, it's cost added onto the taxpayer. You need to make China feel pain for doing that. You need to kick a state-owned enterprise off the stock exchange. You need to make it clear to them these types of acts won't be tolerated, and it will result in consequences. Because right now it doesn't result in consequences, and that's the problem.
Let me ask you this, because this has been top of the page here for a bit, especially yesterday, the EU deal with the United States that Donald Trump got on the trade deal. Now with the biggest deal ever, $1.35 trillion of investment from the EU into the United States, 0% tariffs, our stuff going that way, 15% across the board coming this way. I think this puts the pressure on China. They're the last ones to the table, and these deals have been reached with the UK, with Vietnam, with Japan, now the EU. These are all big deals. What kind of pressure does that put on Beijing? What kind of pressure does that put on Xi Jinping?
Well, it certainly puts pressure on both. It puts pressure on the country and him politically. And as we've heard for many, many months now, he is not as stable politically as he was.
No.
No
And in
knows how
fact,
bad it
some would
actually
say
is.
that some believe that he might have had a stroke a year ago, right? Some people believe he's had some diminishment in his capacity, that the generals are circling. And because he shuffled the deck, there is no clear successor now. So there could be a power struggle in China, couldn't there?
That could very well be. And the more frightening part is we actually really don't know because the system is so opaque over there. So it's usually you kind of live a bit off rumors and see what happens. Yeah, China's got a lot of issues that they're going to have to resolve. But the point I'll take is that they are patient. So if they can, they might be calculating they can wait out Trump for another 3.5 years, less than that as he heads towards his last few months in office, and then just move ahead before, depending on what administration comes in. They have a very long-term planning cycle. 3.5 years is nothing for a society that's lived for 5,000.
Yeah. Big changes could happen in Beijing, that's for sure. And obviously, he eliminated all his competition over the last few years, did Xi Jinping, before he started to lose his grip on power. He eliminated all the obvious successors. He did it quite publicly, oftentimes, to make clear that he was the big dog, right? He made clear for everybody around him to see he was in charge. Nobody's going to challenge that authority. But now, if he did have a medical issue or if he has some issues with power, man, it just makes things uncertain. Do you think we'll get a deal with China in the near term? And if so, will it be a good one? I'll give you the last word, sir.
I think we will get a deal with China in the near future. I think China will live it out for 3.5 years. And if we don't get a administration in that's as good as this current one, then they'll just start to ignore it after Trump is out of office.
Professor, I greatly appreciate you being here. By the way, he wrote the book, Chinese Espionage Operations and Tactics. If you want to learn a little bit more about how they play ball, Chinese Espionage Operations and Tactics, you can find out more. Professor Nicholas Eftimiadis, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. And yeah, I nailed it. Greatly appreciate you spending time here. Around the corner, speaking of money and everything going on, it seems that the stock market, they seem to like these trade deals a lot. Nick Hopwood is coming up, and we'll see what happens with his predictions for the markets, for your money. Always get a second opinion. We'll have that with Nick after the break. right, I say get a second opinion. I always say that when you're dealing with money because it's always nice to have a fresh set of eyes on things. That's where Nick Hopwood comes in, the founder and president of Peak Wealth. If you're not happy with your current advisor or frustrated that you never hear from your folks, you got your second opinion at peakwm.com, peakwm.com. Nick, welcome back.
Thank you, Steve. Good to see you today.
Good to see you. It's been a pretty healthy few weeks here on the stock market and so forth. The Dow broke 45,000 for a bit there. The NASDAQ, the S&P, all doing pretty well, it looks like to me. So but I go back to April, Liberation Day, and they're all, oh, my God, it's going to be the worst year ever. We're all going to be broken, poverty-stricken. Tariffs are going to rack up, inflation to levels we haven't seen before. None of those things happened, Nick. In fact, I just saw the biggest deal in trade history, I think, get done with the EU yesterday, $1.35 trillion coming into the United States as a result. Market seems to like it. What say you?
Yeah, Steve, at this point, the S&P is up 9% year to date, and it's looking pretty good. Now, fixed income is up 3.5%, which is also a strong start through July. But, I studied econ. I'm not an economist, but I'm an economics major from the University of Michigan, and all of my academic professors would talk about free trade and how that is utopia for the economy. And I think we're finding out in real time that, people who have been in business and who have experienced trade across the Atlantic for decades might have a different opinion here. And so I was willing to give Trump and the administration, the benefit of the doubt in this case, and it seems to be working.
Seems to have worked quite well. I mean, you've got Japan at the table, you've got the EU at the table, you've got Vietnam, the Philippines. China's going to have to come along, or otherwise they're going to get punished in this deal. And of course, we continue to bring all this investment into America. It's going to be good for American companies, American workers, and the American economy, it seems. Plus, the de-dollarization has come to a full stop, it seems, because China can't push that through either. So, all pretty good news. All right, so where do you want to go this week, and where do you want to focus your attention for the viewers today?
So I want to also mention that Scott Bessent predicts, the Treasury Secretary, he's saying that we should collect approximately $300 billion in tariff revenue in 2025. So, that's not going to put too big of a dent into the $2 trillion deficit, but it's a start. Steve, on Friday night, Happy Gilmore 2 came out. I'm not sure if you're a Happy fan or if your fans are Happy fans, but this is 30 years ago in the making, Happy Gilmore 1 to the second one. And in the second one, I don't want to, spoil the plot.
All right, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Happy
Just if anybody
loses,
doesn't want to know what's going on with Happy, just plug your ears for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. So look, I've got 25 years in experience as a financial advisor, but I was in high school when this movie came out, okay? So, it was in my formative years. Grandma lost Grandma's house. He lost it again because he assaulted someone trying to repo his Ferrari. So as the story goes. And so here's my public service announcement for everyone. Okay, if you are accused of a felony and convicted, right, they're going to take the house. They're going to sue you and take the house. But if you can have a good lawyer and plead down to a misdemeanor, your umbrella policy is going to cover this lawsuit. And so then you can keep Grandma's house. So look, make sure you have an umbrella policy, please.
So wait a second. Just so I'm clear on this, we have an umbrella policy. Of course, I don't consider myself committing many felonies, but you're telling me misdemeanors are covered, felonies are not with these umbrella policies, which an insurance policy, basically it's a catch-all in case anything crazy happens, right?
That's right. And so like Happy assaulted the gentleman. He punched him in the face. He slammed his head against the car. It could be considered a felony. That's not really my area. But if you have a good lawyer and you have a good umbrella policy, you can probably keep your house.
Well, there you go. All right, keep your house. All right, on a more serious note, now don't slam somebody's face into the car and expect to get away with it. Number two, speaking of getting your face slammed, Donald Trump slamming Jerome over there at the Fed every day, Jerome Powell every day, it seems like. But it doesn't seem to faze him much. They spent time together talking about the $3 billion renovations to the Fed building, which Trump was not impressed with. Are we going to see any change at the Fed? Could they give us a break so that housing could be moving again, get us better rates on mortgages and used cars? I don't think it's going to happen, but what does your crystal ball say?
I think you're right. I think July they're going to hold. The meeting is this week, so we're expecting no change with the rates. The next meeting after this is September, and there's about a 60% probability that we could see a rate cut. But also, as you mentioned, Trump has been slamming Powell, basically body slamming him, okay? And so the market looks at the rates. The market desperately wants lower rates, but the market also wants stability, and it trusts Jerome Powell to get the job done. So it would be an interesting question to see if Trump replaces Powell, how the market would respond. My gut instinct is that the market would sell off. So do we want lower rates? Yes. But do we want stability? Perhaps even more. And so I doubt that Trump will do anything with Powell. I think it's a very low probability of him being replaced.
All right. So the GDP coming out, was it tomorrow? The GDP comes out.
Yeah.
Last quarter was negative. Does that mean are we in a recession?
I don't think so. I think the first quarter was about negative 0.5% as a result of all the imports that we had front running the tariff expectations. So I think that was an artificial negative quarter. The expectations for this quarter are about 2.3%, kind of back on track. Although everybody, including Trump, will say we need to run hotter. We need to be at 3. We need to have a goal of over 3% if we want to grow ourselves out of these deficits and debts.
Yeah. All right. And we've got a graphic here real quickly. We got to get to it so we can put it up there. What is this real quick?
Yeah, Steve, most people think, hey, when it comes to what I can control with my finances, it's what can I save? What can I spend? How can I invest my money? Should it be aggressive or conservative, depending on my situation? They think that's all that they can control. This chart says that the market returns are out of your control. That's correct.
Hold
but
your
how
thought
you
right
can,
there. We hold your thought. We're
How-
up against a break here. We got to go through the break. We don't normally do this, but we're going to do this because we want to see that when we come back. More with Nick Hopwood right after the break here on the Steve Gruber Show. Want to make sure your money is protected with Nick Hopwood after this. right, real quickly with Nick Hopwood here as we wrap this out. I want to make sure that we wrap this out and didn't cut him short. Nick, all right, back to the chart real quick and tell the folks what they control and what they can't.
Yeah, Steve, on this chart, it says that the market returns are out of your control, which is true technically, but I want to take it one step further and say how you respond to the market is fully in your control. Think about all the folks, the countless folks who cashed out in April, locked in losses year to date, and they're probably still in cash. And we just talked about how the S&P is up 9% this year, and they're probably sitting there with negative returns. So it's how you respond to the market that counts.
There you go. All right, if you want a second opinion with Nick, the QR code is going to be on your screen here. There it is. For those of you on the streaming platforms or watching on Real America's Voice TV, you can always get a second opinion with Nick by going to that location and learning more. Nick Hopwood, peakwm.com. If you just want to do it the old-fashioned way, you can do that too. Nick, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here, as always.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a look at the numbers as they come out here over the week. Will the Fed lower rates? I don't think so. I don't think, because I don't think they want to help Donald Trump at all, number one, which is too bad because it doesn't really help or hurt Donald Trump. It helps and hurts the American citizens. That's the challenge. Who's getting hurt? Well, people that have to pay higher mortgage rates or can't get a house or can't get a used car. You got it. Hillsdale College, discover what makes American citizenship unique and why it's in decline. In this free Hillsdale College online course, renowned historian Victor Davis Hanson explores the foundation of American freedom, the responsibility of self-government, and the cultural forces eroding our shared values today. Make sure that you look at this powerful historical insight and modern analysis. Hanson reveals how reclaiming the principles of the founders can restore our nation's civic strength. Enroll for free. Gain the knowledge to defend liberty for future generations. What do you need to do? Go to Gruber for Hillsdale right now. Join me in defending freedom and learning about our incredible country. GruberforHillsdale.com. Remember to follow me on Getter, Truth, Twitter X, Facebook, all the social media platforms. You can watch it live on YouTube and X and Facebook as well every day. We got a lot more coming up. 2 more hours of the program today. You can catch it all of those great places. And you can become a subscriber on Twitter X. That would be great if you did that. It's just $5 a month and can help us out here with the cause and get some special programming as well. I'll be back with another big hour after this of The Steve Gruber Show. All right, live from Studio G, fighting for you from the Foxhole of Freedom every single day. Here we go into another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, the Steve Gruber Show can often result in extended periods of American pride and optimism and uncontrollable enthusiasm about America's future. Who do you want in your Foxhole today? Live in all 50 states and around the world, here we go. Here are three big things you need to know. Number one, an illegal alien in Maine was just arrested for attempting to buy a gun. And why wouldn't he buy a gun? After all, he was working as a police officer. Can you believe that? An illegal alien enforcing the law in Maine. Not legal to have a gun, but he had one anyway. The Maine Police Department violating the law. For this guy to enforce the law, it's just a mess. Number two, the homeless Michigan man with a history of violence and mental issues arraigned Monday for the violent stabbing rampage that left 11 people hospitalized. We'll have more on that. And number three, we're diving into crime this hour. Some of it just gut-wrenching, as you can tell. Can you imagine that the state of Maine would give a police officer or give a gun to a guy to be a police officer who's not even a legal resident, who's here illegally, he has overstayed his visa. He was supposed to stay a week. That was 3 years ago. And that homeless Michigan man with a history of violence and mental issues arraigned Monday for the violent rampage we talked about. Let's start as the bail is really low for such an outrageous attack. The bail is incredibly low. And here is B.J. Gill, as some of his old school friends called him, before he became an inmate for stabbing 11 people inside a Michigan Walmart. He said, you can't accuse him of anything. Here is part of the arraignment yesterday. Listen closely to this series of strange comments. Here he is.
Well, the tobacco, y'all like have the tobacco company and you're selling cigarettes with fiberglass and chemicals in them just to kill off the population, and you can't really accuse me of anything if you're doing that, so.
Okay, so I'm going to mute you for right now because I need to let you know what my decision is with regard to bond. Mr. Gilly, your bond is going to be a $100,000 cash or surety bond. Conditions on the bond are that you may not use nor possess any alcohol, any illegal substance, or any controlled substance, including marijuana, any mind or mood-altering substances, or any non-prescribed medication. You would submit to...
Now, he's being held on a $100,000 bond. He stabbed 11 people. Obviously, he's not right. He's talking about cigarettes, having fiberglass and this and that, and killing people, and you can't accuse me of this if that's going on. Obviously, he doesn't seem like he's all there, right? Doesn't seem like he's all there at all. But $100,000 doesn't seem even remotely appropriate. Even remotely appropriate. Right. Meanwhile, in Cincinnati, maybe you saw some of these videos that appear to be hate crimes. The blowback from a series of hate crimes targeting white people over the weekend has become intense, and it's continuing. Listen, the police chief came out. Terry Thiege, I'm not sure quite how to say her name, T-H-E-E-T-G-E, Thiege is what I'm going to go with. She actually criticized the media and social media for running the videos. There were these videos, these white men, older white men, were leaving a jazz festival, I believe it was. These groups of young black men swarmed them, punching them in the face, knocking them down, kicking them, bloody, just beating the hell out of them. While others laughed and carried on and videotaped the whole thing. Well, 5 people are now in custody for those. That's hate crime. That's what it looks like quite clearly. Here's more. Listen.
At this time, we have victims and suspects identified, and we have charged 5 people in this offense. I'm not going to release that information to you. I will say, if individuals were down there and participated in this event, it would be in their best interest to come turn themselves in at one of our police districts. We have 5 we have charged and anticipate more. Let me be clear. Anyone anyone who put their hands on another individual during this incident in an attempt to cause harm will face consequences. I don't care which side of the incident or the fight they were on. If they place their hands on somebody in an attempt to cause harm, that is unacceptable.
Right, but then she goes on to chastise social media and the news stations in Cincinnati and elsewhere for covering what was being played on social media with the videotapes, numerous videotapes of these vicious assaults. Hate crimes is what they are. And we have to stay with this case to make damn sure the prosecutor follows through with these charges and make sure these people are convicted of attacking people, unarmed people in the streets, swarming them, beating the crap out of them. And yeah, that same woman, that same police chief, chastising the media and social media is complete. That's unacceptable. I'll tell you that. Meanwhile, when it comes to law and order, you know, there's a woman I wouldn't want to see on the other side of the bench. I've met her in person, talked to her. Judge Jeanine Pirro. She's also been on this program a number of times. Says her office of U.S. Attorney will be asking about immigration status going forward. She's not playing around anymore. They're going to ask immigration status when people stand in front of her. Listen to this.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney in D.C., and we are prioritizing the President's executive order to make D.C. safe and beautiful. And as part of that initiative, what my office has done in recent weeks is we are now trying to identify those illegals who are currently burrowed in our criminal justice system, who've identified themselves either as citizens or individuals with actual legal status who do not have status or are illegal. Previously, there was no questioning them, and there was certainly no verification of that. Now I've got my chief criminal investigator, Matt Fox Moles, who has an enforcement removal officer embedded with his investigators, working with ICE to identify those individuals already in the system that we can then find out from ICE what their status is.
Yeah, and I appreciate her doing that. Standing up for what's right, standing up for law and order. Isn't that important? Yes, yes, it is. Yes, yes, it is. All right, if you want to save a pile of money on your bills and you've got a well in your yard, if you have electric heat, propane heat, heating oil, and you have a well in your yard, the Well Connect hybrid geothermal system could save you up to 90% on your bills every month. There are thousands of them in use right now. Invented in Michigan, patented, American-made, the Well Connect geothermal system connects your existing air conditioner, your existing furnace. Go to wellconnectgeo.com. You can find out more right now. wellconnectgeo.com. Find out more. This system could be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. If you're living out in the country with that well and you want to save a pile of money, wellconnectgeo.com. That could be your route to saving a bunch of money. Michigan-made. Good stuff. I'll take a break and be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now as we continue the conversations that are most important to you every single day. That's what we do here. Bring in different voices so you can hear different points of view and perspectives. Kevin Coughlin is the Ohio State Chair for U.S. Term Limits, a former member of the Ohio State Senate, pushing for term limits in America. Kevin, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah. From memory care, you know, one of the most remarkable stories happened here. It's been a few months now, but there was a representative, a member of Congress that they couldn't find from Texas. Hadn't showed up in 6 or 8 months. They found her in a memory care facility, an old folks home. Had no idea who she was. And her staff had continued to operate as if everything were normal for months and months. They should be probably considered for criminal charges, I would say, if they know she's in the, mental care, the dementia center, and still pretending that she's actually coming to work, which she was not. But demanding term limits, it seems to be getting louder all the time, doesn't it?
It does. One by one, states are joining the list of states that are calling for a state convention to do congressional term limits. We're up to 12 states now, and we've got 2 more states that have passed out of one chamber. And here in Ohio, we haven't passed out of a chamber yet, but we are cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to pass a resolution by the end of this year.
So what do you think? I mean, term limits, here's the thing. If term limits are passed in some states, like Ohio, but not in California, doesn't that negatively impact Ohio if California keeps these people in there that are, been on the payroll for 80 years?
You're talking about at the federal level? That's not how it works. If 34 states pass a resolution to call for a convention of the states, then we will have one. And then if 38 states ratify a constitutional amendment, actually if 38 states ratify a constitutional amendment, whether it's proposed by Congress or it's proposed by a convention of the states, then it will become the law of the land and part of our Constitution, evenly applied to all states.
So an individual, just so we're clear about what you said here, this is important. An individual state cannot say we're going to limit the number of terms a senator can serve or a member of Congress can serve. That has to be done at the federal level. It cannot be done at the state level. Is that correct?
That's correct. In fact, Ohio tried that when we passed term limits back in the 90s, and the court struck down the federal side of that and left in place the state term limits.
So how do you get to 34 states? You can't get 34 people in Congress to agree on much of anything, or senators for that matter. How do you get 34 states on board to agree?
Yeah, it's hard.
If 34 states to put it forward, then 38 states to ratify, how does it work?
Yeah, so first of all, the system is designed to be hard. The founders set up a system that would balance the majority with states' rights and make it very difficult to change their framework. And in fact, a convention of the states has never happened. But if there is an issue that you can get to 34 or 38 states, I think it's probably term limits. This is supported by 80% of the American people, and that's pretty even across the board, across all states. Majority of both parties support it. There aren't very many issues, frankly, that you would get to 38 states. But I think term limits is one of those unifying issues that crosses all demographics.
All right. So what's your idea of what's appropriate? How many terms in Congress?
Well, U.S. term limits doesn't prescribe. They want to leave it up to the convention. But personally, I think that no more than 12 years is sufficient. And I know a lot of people say, well, what about seniority and what about getting your sea legs and becoming effective? Effectiveness expands and contracts to the time that you have available. And we see that in the states where we have term limits. You have very smart legislators who figure out how to get things done, how to be effective, and how to have an impact in the time that they have available. And when they know they have that shorter runway, they become effective and they learn much faster. If you have 30 years to do that, then you're probably going to take a good long time and you're going to be a worthless member of Congress for a good long time.
So 6 terms in the U.S. House and then 2 terms in the U.S. Senate. Is that what you're saying, 12 and 12?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I've heard 6, I've heard 8, I've heard all kinds of, and really all of them are fine because they're better than what we have now. But I think that it's going to have to, at the end of the day, it's going to have to be a reasonable balance.
And what do you say to folks that say, look, elections are the way you limit terms? Because if you have somebody that's really fabulous, whoever it might be, and you don't want to get rid of them, but you're forced to, how does that help the voters?
Well, that's a fair point, and one that I shared for a long time. But when you look at the numbers in Congress, the entire game is rigged in favor of the incumbent members of Congress. Over 90% of them win re-election. In the last 10 years or so, you've had over 2,000 opportunities to change a member of Congress, and it's only happened about 300 sometimes. And frankly, that's not always been because people get beat. It's because they take another job or they get appointed to something or they retire. So the turnover just doesn't happen. But when you look at the way the game is rigged for the incumbents, the fact that PACs and lobbyists and special interests give to them but not to challengers, the fact that they have taxpayer dollars that they use in their office to campaign on TV, on radio, on text messaging, on direct mail, which is really campaign mail coming right out of the congressman's office.
Of course it is.
They have all that name ID.
It's all messaging. It's all positioning. It's all of that stuff. No question. I got to leave it right there, but it's a great topic. And I think that you're getting traction because I used to be on the side of, well, elections limit terms, but then I've started to soften on that point. You might get me yet, Kevin. You might get me full-fledged yet.
We're working on it.
Yeah, just one day at a time. All right, Kevin. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Congress can't be an old folks' home with special privileges, that's for sure. We'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, and what could be a blow to the Republicans in their efforts to expand their seats in the Senate. Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina, former governor now, entering the state Senate race. It's a win for Democrats. He said he never really wanted to go to Washington, he just wanted to live and serve the people of North Carolina, but here he is. Tom Tillis is leaving, run out by conservative Republicans for being a rhino, and rightfully so. The problem for Republicans is they don't have a great candidate right now. Michael Whatley's going to be in the race. Michael Whatley is the RNC chair, or has been, and he's from North Carolina, but he's not well known. Roy Cooper was there, 4 terms as the Attorney General and 2 terms as governor. Everybody knows who Roy Cooper is. He unseated the incumbent Pat McCrory in 2016, won that election, re-election in 2020 by a larger margin, despite President Trump carrying the state in the presidential election both years. So it's pretty strong pickup possibility for the Democrats in North Carolina now. Not good news for the Republicans. The president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, had expressed interest in running, but she announced Thursday she ruled out a bid for the seat, which is probably not great for the Republicans. She would probably stand a better chance of winning that seat than Michael Whatley. That's my thought on that, and that's going to be a hard hit for the Republicans to lose a seat in North Carolina. There you have it. If you want the best dog food available, you want Great Lakes Pet Food. GreatLakesPetFood.com is what we've fed our dogs for years. It's Michigan-made. We went looking for American-made dog food here a few years ago. We found this great product in West Michigan made out of real pork, real chicken, real turkey. It's real dog food. It's not a bunch of fillers. And what it is not is Chinese garbage. And that's really important. It'll be shipped right to your house. Dog food is expensive, so you might as well have the best, and you might as well have what's made in America. GreatLakesPetFood.com. You can find out more. You'll be glad you did. All right? That I can tell you. You'll be glad you did. Coming up after the break, Mary Graver will be here talking about the next mayor of Minneapolis being a Democratic socialist. Yeah, another Democrat socialist rising in this country. How is that possible? I don't know, folks. Socialists are nothing more than communists in training. All right, we'll be back after this. All right, turning now to a new topic. Mary Graver is the author of Debunking FDR, The Man and the Myth. She's a resident fellow at the Alexander Hamilton Institute for the Study of Western Civilization, the founder of the Dissident Professor Education Project. She joins me now. Mary, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, so a democratic socialist. Not only do we have which really is cute term for a communist, because that's what it is. Let's call it for what it is. You've got basically a communist at the top of the Democratic ticket in New York City and now in Minneapolis as well. But we don't teach kids about communism anymore. We don't teach kids about what communism did in the 20th century in the public schools anymore. So they're like, oh, well, this would be neat. We just need more of this. And everybody can have what they need, and the people that have what they have, they can give what they're supposed to, their fair share, whatever fair means, because nobody can ever define fair. It's a subjective term. How dangerous is this in your estimation, what you're seeing in New York and Minneapolis?
Well, it's very dangerous. We already have a communist mayor of Los Angeles. And then so if we have a communist mayor of New York, that means our two largest cities will be run by communists. And here we are in Minneapolis, also a large city. And, they've got tremendous power, especially in New York City. That's where Wall Street is, and that's where the UN is. And Mamdani has already said that he was going to forbid Netanyahu from ever stepping foot in New York City. I mean, this is tyranny here. This is dictatorship. So he has let his views be known. So I think it's very dangerous.
Well, what has happened? Is it education? Is it culture? Is the fact that Minneapolis has imported thousands, literally tens of thousands of people from Somalia and given them a foothold, so they have a member of Congress who hates this country. Ilhan Omar does hate this country. She's anti-Semitic. She talks about being, her allegiances are to Somalia, not to America. Those comments have been made. And so you have this foothold. And so this mayor, this mayoral candidate has a, so what is it? What is the leading cause of this? Well, I'm going to call it for what it is, insanity.
Right. It stems from our educational system. So yes, students are not taught about communism. I had that experience when I was teaching for 20 years, when I would mention the word communism, and a third of my class had no clue what the word meant. They'd never heard the word. And then also our multiculturalism, which goes back to the 1990s, which I experienced when I was in graduate school. I'm an immigrant myself. I came over when I was 2 years old from a communist country. So I have the sensibility that communism is bad. I was steeped in that when I grew up from hearing stories. But back in the 60s and 70s, there was pressure to assimilate. There is no pressure to assimilate. There is no encouragement of assimilation. Instead, you've got these groups that are 100% one ethnic group. They go to public schools. Their teachers are not encouraging them to pledge allegiance to the United States, but to value their own culture, which in many ways is antithetical to our system of government and
well,
our
that's
values.
exactly right. When you've got people who are advocating for Sharia law, which is not even permitted under the United States Constitution. We are guaranteed a Republican form of government in the Constitution. That's the way we are lay the groundwork. You've got tribal politics. That's what Somalia is, tribal politics, right? And you've got religious dictums. How do we fix that? Or do you just keep fighting it in court and fighting it in the streets and fighting it at the ballot box? Because, look, it's not just Minneapolis. It's Lewiston, Maine, flooded with Somalian residents as well. And I can go around the country and find these different places. Charleroi, Pennsylvania, Springfield, Ohio. I can find all sorts of examples of these problems cropping up in this country because we have done it to ourselves. And it started in 1965 with a really lousy immigration overhaul from Lyndon Baines Johnson. Am I right?
Right. I mean, yes, you're absolutely correct. There's going to be no place to escape to, even small town America. You're going to have these mayors and city council members who are, dominating your politics and bringing in Sharia law. So what we need to do, and I think President Trump is doing this, is to reform the educational system, throw out this DEI nonsense, this multiculturalism, and so forth. You can value your own culture. You can have your own private organizations. You can cook your own food, dance your own dances, play your own music. I'm all for that. But when it comes to your values and your allegiance, it's to the United States. That's what I was taught. That's what my friends were taught. That's the way we grew up. And we should return to that.
Yeah, we should return to that. But assimilation, look, it is it is the way America's always been. That's what Ellis Island was about, right?
Yes, and Teddy Roosevelt, talked about that. He said, when you come to America, you're an American. If you're not going to do that, stay out. I mean, and I think that's kind of the message that President Trump is giving, and that needs to be reinforced. So I don't know what to do about these mayoral candidates. They're clearly communists. Donnie has even said he wants to, abolish private property. He's called for the abolition of private property and seizing the means of production. I mean, these are things right out of the Communist Manifesto. Do we need to bring back the House Committee on Un-American Activities? Do we need to bring the Smith Act back? But, this is a danger of, these cities and towns being run and taken over by communists.
Yeah, absolutely true. Okay, so where do we go from here, Mary? We got to stop this. I'll give you the last word. We need an intervention here in New York City, in Minneapolis. We need to exercise the nonsense out of Los Angeles. I'll give you the last word.
Well, we need to reform our educational system. Students need to learn history. They need to learn what happened when our leaders were soft on communism, has happened under the FDR administration, which I go through in my book, Debunking FDR. FDR articulated his positions very early on in 1912, 20 years before he won the presidency, when he was still a state senator. He talked about interdependence and the state being able to coerce farmers to grow certain crops and compel them. He used the word compulsion. So he articulated his plans, and we're living with the consequences. And the same thing is with Donnie.
Mary Graber, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. This part of the program, by the way, brought to you by PuroVet. PuroVet's part of the Puro Clean Veteran Initiative. PuroVet program where veterans find purpose in property restoration and entrepreneurship. We salute those who have served. You can find out more at purovet.com. You'll have a leg up as a veteran. You'll be first in line. You'll get special opportunities. 855-PuroVet. Purovet.com. That's right. Great people making it possible for you to own a franchise and have a big future. Thank you, PuroVet. Purovet.com. I'll be right back. All right, I don't really know who Sydney Sweeney is. All right, I'll just tell you. Apparently, she's an actress, done something. I have no idea what. She's young. What, maybe 20s? Maybe Anthony knows. Who is this person, Anthony?
Yeah, she's about my age. Pretty famous actress.
What has she done of important?
A lot of TV shows. I mean, she's just in a lot of today's TV shows and movies, and she's definitely known for her looks.
All right. She's attractive enough, I guess. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white girl, right? We'll call her 20s, whatever. I don't know anything about her, except what Anthony just told me. She's done some acting. I don't know that I've ever seen her in anything. Okay, so she comes out and does these series of ads for American Eagle jeans. And it's the tagline is, Sydney Sweeney has great jeans, or something like that. In fact, I want to play you one of the ads so you can hear it and see it, because, well, I'll tell you why afterwards. You listen to this first, and you tell me what you think.
I'm here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Or that they make your butt look amazing. Why would I need to do that? But if you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney has great jeans.
You see what I did there, right?
So Sydney Sweeney has great jeans. Apparently this is Nazi talk, white supremacist talk, and it's racist. I'm not kidding you. This is blowing up all over social media. Left-wingers are crying and screaming and carrying on about how awful American Eagle is for running that ad. And similar as like another ad. Actually, the one ad that I liked, she's apparently she can work on cars, all right? It's one of the, I saw her say this somewhere, doing my research yesterday. And so in one of the ads, she's got like a 1967, 68 Mustang, and she drops the hood on it, saying something about jeans, gets in the car, and does a great burnout in the studio. And smokes up the whole studio. It's pretty cool, actually. Racist? I guess I must be missing it. Sydney Sweeney has great jeans. Okay, and she loves her jeans. And so what if she's white and blonde hair and blue eyes? It's bizarre. You can't say anything anymore. People are crying and screaming and carrying on. It's just, all right, so here's the question for you. Does American Eagle fold? I hope not. Hope American Eagle sticks with it, because it's, you know what this is? It's not woke. Just trying to sell jeans. And does it push sales up? Maybe. Maybe. Well, what did you think of the ad, Anthony? Anything good or bad? Any idea?
No.
Did you get white supremacist out of that?
No. Well, I mean, she does a lot of like sponsorship ads, whatever.
Right.
And most of the ones she's playing into like her looks.
Sure.
That's kind of her shtick.
Well, there is one of the ads that talks about, you get your jeans from your parents, and she says, my jeans are blue. All right, and so what? Yeah, she looks like her parents. That's how that works, and my jeans are blue. But does that, okay?
No, I'm not seeing it. It's kind of a reach.
It's a big reach. Yeah, I'm not seeing it either. All right.
I mean, she's kind of woke, too, I feel like. I mean,
I would guess you're probably right.
Yeah. I feel like she's taking stances.
So Sydney Sweeney is a woke individual, kind of look, she's in Hollywood. She's in her 20s. Of course she's woke.
Yeah.
You
what you would expect.
Yeah, you can't be anything but that and work in Hollywood anyhow. So there, you're up to date on the American Eagle jeans crisis. Oh my God, it's Nazis. They're not. Oh yeah, and here's the other one. You know what her initials are, Anthony? SS.
Oh Lord, that's my girlfriend's initials too.
Well, there you go. Yeah, her initials are SS. So clearly she's a Nazi. Really, this is what you're going with. I can't even make this insanity up. All right, so here's J.D. Vance destroys an AP reporter suggesting Republicans are protecting pedophiles because they have not gotten the Epstein files to their satisfaction yet. So therefore, Republicans are protecting pedophiles. Roll that one.
For 4 years under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the media didn't give a damn about the Epstein files or about the Epstein case. For literally 20 years, the story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency.
Yeah, I don't think he's impressed with what he's hearing there. I'm going to go with that. He's not impressed with what he's hearing there, that is for sure. By the way, big deal with Tesla and Samsung signing a $16.5 billion chip deal. Just more high tech. And while elites have been getting rich off from crypto, what's been happening to hardworking Americans? They got left behind. Block Trust IRA says that's not going to go on anymore. They're changing everything, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans just like you. Crypto is fueling President Trump's America First economic miracle. Now is your chance to join the movement. The Animus AI trading platform runs 24/7. It crushes old school strategies and helps patriots like you build serious wealth. Just like the elites, has been named the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin magazine. Block Trust IRA offers up to $200 million in protection, and their clients are seeing returns over 250% sometimes. Whether you're a school teacher, a truck driver, a carpenter, a plumber, doesn't matter. Whatever you do, it's time to get on board. Get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you sign up right now. $2,500. SteveGruberCrypto.com. SteveGruberCrypto.com. Making retirement great again. I'll be back with sports and Brock after this. right, let's jump on board the sports train with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Hall of Fame second baseman for the Chicago Cubs, Ryne Sandberg, passed away yesterday at the age of 65 after a long battle with prostate cancer. Ryno was the National League most valuable player in 1984 for the Cubs. He retired after the 1997 season and was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2005. Ryno, as he was called, was just 65 years old. On the field last night, there was a full schedule of games. American League winners included Baltimore, Detroit, and Seattle. National League winners included Washington, St. Louis, and San Diego. University of Colorado head football coach Deion Sanders announced yesterday that he is cancer-free after having his bladder removed this offseason due to a tumor found there. The College and Pro Football Hall of Famer has had blood clots and 2 toes amputated since his football career ended. Sanders says he will coach Colorado this season. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right. Thank you, Brock, for that. Sorry about guy passing 65. Just seems, here's too much of that, don't you? Just hear way too much of that. By the way, Tesla signed a deal with Samsung, $16.5 billion. I mentioned that in passing because I'm watching all the high-tech stuff every single day. Elon Musk said the U.S. automaker signed a $16.5 billion deal to source chips from Samsung Electronics, a move expected to bolster the South Korean tech giant's loss-making contract manufacturing business. Samsung shares jumped 6.8%, highest since September of last year. It's a big deal. And $16.5 billion is just the bare minimum. Actual output likely to be several times higher. Yeah. Tesla, Samsung, their stocks on the move as the investment in America continues. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue the Steve Gruber Show. Don't you go anywhere. We got a lot to talk about yet today. All right, welcome back to it as we can kick off another big hour here. The Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board for the conversation. Look, a lot to talk about here today. Let's start with the three big things this hour. Number one, Trump has dropped his 50 days to 2 weeks for Russia to stop its war with Ukraine. That would be a big plus, wouldn't it? Number two, the Traverse City Walmart stabbing suspect has been arraigned. He's being held on only $100,000 bond. Strange conversation. We'll get to that. But first, we want to start here with number three. Police have identified multiple suspects in the brutal hate crime attacks on white people leaving a jazz concert in Cincinnati over the weekend. And they are hate crimes. These are white men, middle-aged or older white men being attacked by mobs of young black men and just beaten ruthlessly. I guess there's some women there too, but beaten ruthlessly while others laugh and take videos of the attacks, of the assaults. Really horrendous and violent. Really horrendous and violent. And I want you to hear from the police chief. I want you to hear from the police chief because she seems to think that it's the fault of the media. It's the fault of the media. Her name is Terry Thiege. Thiege? I don't know. It's Theetge. Thiege. That's what I'm going with. These white people were leaving the jazz festival attacked by young black people, and she says it's the media's fault, social media's fault, because you're exaggerating the story. I've seen the videos. These people had the hell beat out of them. I mean, ruthlessly to the point that they're staggered, concussed, no question. Here's what she had to say, though. It's a couple minutes, but you have to hear it.
Another topic I want to cover real quick. Social media and journalism and the role it plays in this incident. And yes, guys, that's you. That is you. Social media, the post that we've seen, does not depict the entire incident. That is one version of what occurred. At times, social media and mainstream media and their commentaries are a misrepresentation of the circumstances surrounding any given event. What that does, that causes us some difficulties in thoroughly investigating the activity and enforcing the law. Because what happens, that social media post and your coverage of it distorts the content of what actually happened. And it makes our job more difficult. Go ahead, right here.
Thank you. Two questions. Where were the nearest officers?
In the central business section. They were working. They were both in vehicles, and like I said, they had to maneuver through the traffic.
Second question is, you said social media and news media distorted the content of what actually happened. What exactly was distorted? I understand that there was multiple views of the video, but exactly what led up to this? I mean, what was distorted?
Yeah, so I think by the irresponsibility with social media is it just shows one side of the equation quite frequently.
What other side was there, lady?
Without factual context.
What factual
and then
context?
People run with that. And then it grows legs and it becomes something bigger that we then have to try to manage as part of the investigation. So hold on.
Yeah, what was exaggerated? Anthony, I didn't pull the video of these people getting the hell beat out of them. Have you seen them?
No, I actually haven't.
All right, I got to find this. I pulled her because it was so just wrong, just totally wrong. And this guy just gets, he wanders into a crowd. He just gets totally attacked. And I'm going to send you the video here, and you can maybe get it up so you can see for people to understand what is taken out of context here. Absolutely nothing.
Where did this happen?
Cincinnati, Ohio. Here it is. Just put it up here in the way you do it, when Ivy's here. I want people to see this. This is just, there were several. This is one of them. All right, you can just play it in the side here. Because people need to understand that there's nothing taken out of context here. Guy's walking down the sidewalk. He gets hit in the side of the head. And this is just one of them. And then the woman that's following him, she gets knocked out. And there are a couple of them, of these videos. When you have it there, just tell me, because I'm trying to find the second video where the guy gets blindsided from the back, knocked out, and he goes face first into the back end of a car. Right? Back end of the car, because there were more than one. And this one would say it's out of context. Ain't nothing out of context here, folks. This guy got the living kicked out of him. Left passed out in the street. Let me see here. You got the video yet?
Yes, I got it. Do you want sound?
Just roll it. Just roll it. Put it in the side there. Put me in a little screen here. I want people to see this. Just roll it. I mean, here's the guy. He's walking on the sidewalk. All of a sudden, he's just being swarmed. I mean, there's just people all over kicking him and punching him and kicking him and punching in the street. I mean, do you see anything out of context here? The chief of police says this is social media's fault. This is the regular media's fault. This is anybody's fault but the people involved right there. 5 people have been arrested. There's nothing out of context here. It's outrageous. That chief of police should be fired today. Good Lord, this guy's lucky to be alive. I mean, look at him. I mean, they're doing body slams like it's WWE. You've not seen this, Anthony?
No.
You've seen it for the first time. How ugly is this? The guy's totally defenseless, isn't he?
Yeah, that's outrageous.
Do you think this is social media's fault? No. I mean, the guy it's relentless. He tries to get up, he gets knocked down again, I think, here. Yeah, because he can't walk. That police chief should be fired immediately. This is a hate crime. They're hate crimes. Yeah, you have some serious issues, Cincinnati. If that's your chief of police, you have some real problems. Yeah, blame the video for the outrage.
They just knocked out a woman as well.
Yeah, she's totally catatonic. Yeah, I told you. The woman gets knocked out at the end as well. Totally cold-cocked. Catatonic. She's gone. And then some people finally try to help her, and she's a sack of potatoes. She's gone. Hammered. Fault of the social media video, please. Good Lord. There are, by the way, 32 head stomps on the guy. At least 22 different attackers in the video. At least 15 bystanders watched while it went on. They believe that one might have a traumatic brain injury, by the way. 22 attackers. And the chief of police in Cincinnati says that's the media's fault? Give me a break. She ought to be fired right now. I'll be right back. All right, I'm just shocked at what we were just watching there. And just mortified at what I saw, honestly. Anyhow. Shifting gears now, we're going to join Zen Honeycutt. Moms across America expressing deep concern of the House Appropriations Bill, which grants chemical companies legal immunity, weakens EPA authority, and strips Americans of the right to sue for chemical-related harms. The group rebuking Republicans for supporting the section, Democrats for failing to hold a roll call vote and challenge it aggressively. Zen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. One of these things that I saw that I didn't like, and I was quite clear about here not long ago, was PFAS and the guidelines being reduced as to, you know, how much PFAS, forever chemicals, could be in the mix. And that's just a part of it. Why are we doing this? Why are we allowing this to happen? Why are we weakening the EPA authority here? Why are we allowing chemical companies legal immunity? What's happening?
Yeah, and that's Section 507. So it's the same House Appropriations Bill. 453 is amendments to FIFRA that will basically give pesticide immunity companies, pesticide immunity to chemical companies, and actually 57,000 chemical products. 507 is the one that weakens the regulations around PFAS. And what's happening here is it's very clear. Our chemical companies are influencing our elected officials. So our democracy is being thwarted. Our Seventh Amendment right to sue is being, destroyed here. And what's happening is that our elected officials essentially are not doing their job. Steve, politicians get to run for office and get elected whether or not they have a political background or not. Unlike elite athletes that train to be athletes, politicians can be elected and get into office because their only job is to represent the people. That's what they're supposed to do. And they're not doing that. Their constituents are calling them by the thousands of people. We're emailing them. We're telling them we do not want Section 453 passed. We do not want 507 in. And yet our politicians are passing these types of things through. This is through the House Appropriations Committee. It hasn't passed. It's not law yet. Hopefully will not be. But these people are passing these things through because they're not listening to their constituents, and they're merely listening to the chemical corporations that are telling them that this is what they need to do. So
Yeah.
we're outraged. This is absolutely
I would happen to agree with you.
Republican.
I think it's outrageous as well. I happen to agree with you on this one. And people ask me, well, what is it that you disagree with the Trump administration on? Here it is. Here's maybe the biggest thing that I disagree with the Trump administration on are these things, whether it's PFAS or chemical companies having complete legal immunity, weakened EPA authority in some areas. Look, I think the EPA oversteps its bounds in some areas. I do when it comes to different areas, waters of the USA and different things that I thought were wrong. But, when you give blanket immunity to entire sectors of the economy, it leads to bad outcomes, doesn't it?
Yeah, like the vaccine companies. In 1986, they passed a Vaccine Injury Act, and vaccine companies they weren't able to be sued anymore. But there was VAR set up, a special recording system, a special court system, and a special fund. The pesticide companies want none of that. Absolutely nothing. If your father gets cancer from using Roundup in his backyard, he will not be able to sue. And that's what's already happening in Georgia and North Dakota. Those states passed those laws, and this is unacceptable. They want this passed federally. They're saying that it doesn't do that, but here's the thing, Steve. This bill, it doesn't prevent somebody from filing a lawsuit. So technically, when they say it doesn't prevent anybody from suing, they're accurate, but it does prevent anybody from winning a lawsuit, and that is because of the language. It puts all of the onus on the EPA and FIFRA. It makes it so that any other agency or legislator can't pass any guidelines, rules, or labeling issues around any chemicals. So this essentially doesn't just cut Bobby off at the knees, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running HHS and trying to make America healthy again. It cuts him off at the waist. I mean, this would prevent him and many other, USDA, the CDC, doing anything around chemicals. This is the most egregious attempt at neutering our government that I have ever seen. This absolutely, cuts off our agencies, our legislators, and our EPA. It wipes out 30 years of science. Section 453 does. It reverts back to the last human health assessment, which is 1993 for glyphosate. So all of the studies that have happened in the past 32 years would not be able to be utilized in a court of law, and essentially ensures that anybody who sues would lose. And this is what Bayer wants, and ChemChina, right, which is owned by the CCP. They want to stop lawsuits so that they can stop the bleeding and the hemorrhaging that's happening regarding, all of the lawsuits because their products are harmful. And I would assert that rather than spending tens of millions of dollars on lobbyists and lawyers, these companies should be spending money on reformulating their products instead. There are safe lawsuits. There are safe, agrochemicals. And I'd like to remind our representatives and senators that we mothers are watching. And in the Native American traditions, the mothers are the ones who elected the chieftains of the tribe. And to this day, they are still allowed to remove a leader based on lack of performance. And I will remind our elected officials that we mothers are not beholden to party lines. We are going to vote for people who children and health and safety first.
I agree with that. Got to leave it right there. Well played. Come back anytime and we'll talk about it, because this is a big deal, and we want to make sure we keep people informed like you've done here today. Thank you for the update. I'm not happy about it. I think it's wrong. And it's bipartisan failure is what that is. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. So let your elected officials know. Thank you.
I will. We'll take a break and be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so here's something pretty cool. A DOGE AI tool is going to target 100,000 federal rules for elimination. How about that? 100,000 federal rules to be eliminated. That'd be pretty remarkable. The Department of Government Efficiency is reportedly using a newly developed artificial intelligence tool to accelerate the rollback of federal regulations with a stated goal of eliminating 50% of all federal rules by the first anniversary of Donald Trump's second inauguration. So 1 year in. Internal documents reviewed, along with interviews with 4 government officials familiar with the project, reveal an ambitious timeline, a wide-ranging use of the tool across various agencies. DOGE, of course, created and led by Elon Musk until his divorce from Donald Trump. The use of AI to interpret complex legal language and determine regulatory necessity raises legal and practical concerns, particularly regarding accuracy, oversight, and the future role of civil servants in shaping public policy, according to the Washington Post. But isn't that remarkable? The DOGE AI deregulation decision tool, developed by engineers brought into government by Elon Musk, programmed to scan about 200,000 existing federal rules and flag those that are either outdated or not legally required. 100,000 of those rules could be eliminated. Wouldn't that be something? To clean up government using AI. Clean it right up. Clean it right up. And, you know, get it taken care of. It's quite a step forward, actually. Quite a step forward. Anyhow, there you go. AI and the DOGE getting together. Marriage of, an effective marriage, potentially. We'll talk about it. All right, still to come on the program, State Representative Mark Tisdale will be here. Ivy will join me in a bit as well. You don't want to miss any of it. Good morning. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's jump right back into it now. All right, there's a vote on a bill to limit cell phones in schools, but it failed. How would it fail? Who would want cell phones in schools being used? Of course, there's no respect. Schools are just another part of the circus, it seems to me. Just another part of the circus. And something that do the teachers even have control of their classrooms anymore? That's what I would wonder. Join me is State Representative Mark Tisdale. House Democrats defeat a Whitmer priority from 2025 in her State of the State address. Mark, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Good to be here.
Glad to have you here. All right, so why would, not? In fact, it looks to me like not a single Democrat voted in favor of this. Am I reading the scorecard right?
That is correct, and several didn't vote at all.
Well, how is that? This is a priority for the governor, isn't it?
Well, it was an opportunity to jam up the Republican caucus, just to play politics on a given day and on an important issue. We were 3 short when it became apparent that we didn't have the votes on our side of the aisle to pass it, rather than the several what I thought were allies in agreement with me on the other side of the aisle. And the rest of the caucus saw that we couldn't pass it with Republican votes only. Every single Democrat that was there either voted no or didn't vote at all, which is effectively a no.
Right, which is in effect, if you don't vote, then you don't vote. This is a supermajority issue. Almost everybody supports this, right?
74%. The Pew Research July 16 just filed a report. 74% of surveyed U.S. adults want cell phones eliminated from middle schools and high schools.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Now, look, I understand that you want to be able to get a hold of somebody in an emergency. Is there a way to accommodate? Is that why the Democrats voted against it? They want to be able to have kids have contact in an emergency, but that's not what's really happening here.
Well, in the bill I made, there were accommodations, and it was one of the things that Senator Pohanke, chair of the Education Department or Education Committee in the Senate, was asking for, and there were accommodations put in the bill for that. I also had in the bill that you could bring a flip phone, you could bring a dumb phone to school and have that available as well. But it wasn't about anything that was in the bill or missing from the bill. It was simply a chance to play politics on a particular day on a 74-26 issue, which doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Well, what else are you seeing up there? I mean, obviously, this is something that should have been passed. And you've got Regina Weiss of Oak Park voted for it in committee and voted against it on the floor. Why did they all decide you think it's just to mess with you guys? Really?
Well, I can't come up with exactly what the thinking was. It was simply another opportunity to maybe flex their muscles a little bit in a minority. And I can't say that it hasn't happened both ways, but I don't recall us ever doing something like that on a 74% issue.
No, ever. You needed 56 votes to get there. You got 53. It didn't happen. And Whitmer the governor did outline this as a priority in the 2025 State of the State address.
Correct. And we've worked very closely with the governor's office, with Senator Pohanke's office. Both of them have been great. And I think they recognize that this was a good bill. It created statewide minimums. It wasn't just suggestions or, gosh, we hope you consider doing something about this. And I think, but it was unfortunate after all the work. I've been working on this for 2 years. I've done quite a bit of reading on the topic, and it makes all the sense in the world to get them out of the schools. I just can't explain why this was the issue that they wanted to play politics on.
Yeah, it seems crazy to me. I'll give you that. It seems, why would you play this one? I don't have any idea, but they played politics on it. So where do you go from here? Do you reintroduce the bill? How does the process work in Lansing?
Well, I will be rewriting the bill, but it's not going to be, it's not going to be any more Mr. Nice Guy or Mr. Accommodation. The gold standard is a bell-to-bell prohibition, K through 12. Ohio and the state of New York, state of New York, obviously very blue, just implemented a bell-to-bell prohibition. That's the way it will be. I had much of that in the initial draft. My initial draft was in June of 2023. I've been working on this for some time and talking to dozens and dozens of educators and administrators and people on the other side of the aisle, tried to accommodate, tried to incorporate language that they wanted, but those days are gone. We're going to come out with the gold standard, and if the governor wants to get a cell phone bill signed into law during her term, this is what it's going to be.
Well, that's what it's going to be. It's time to rewrite, and we'll see what happens. I support you, as do 3 out of 4 people in this state. I mean, look,
yes.
Playing on your cell phone when you're supposed to be in class, not what we need in the schools, is it?
Steve, if I can jump in for just a little bit here, and the researchers, even Governor Hochul, used the terms addictive, addicted, and addiction. And I had been holding off on that, seeming that it was a little over the top. But once you cross that line in your brain and you accept the fact that this is an addictive product and that the kids are actually addicted, take your cell phone away from your teenagers for the weekend and tell me they don't act like an addict. Once you accept that, then the question becomes, where do we allow our children to carry the product that they're addicted to? In schools, when they're supposed to be learning, math and reading, and if we were way above grade level on that, that would be one thing. But on those things, we rank 41st in the nation.
Yeah, and we're falling. That's the other problem. We're falling, Mark. Our Mississippi has some things figured out. Michigan, can you believe that Michigan's behind Mississippi when it comes to education? I mean, that's just shocking to me. We need to get our act together. I can't believe the Democrats voted against this. Let's get the cell phones out of the hallways. Let's get the bill rewritten, Mark, and reintroduced. It's got to get done. It's, like you said, supermajority. Last word to you.
Well, and when you bring up Mississippi, a lot of what has provided success in Mississippi, many of them were initiatives that were defeated in the last term or terminated in the last term here in Michigan. Simple A through F scoring on a performance of schools, read by grade 3,
yep.
Other accountability measures, and they've all been tossed in the last term.
Mark Tisdale from Rochester Hills, greatly appreciate you being here, sir. Good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Keep up the good fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you have it. Look, it's a supermajority issue. Why would you not vote for that? I don't even begin to understand that. Let's get Ivy in here. Maybe she'll understand. She's up after the break. All right, back at it now. So I got this tip from a listener. Miranda is her name. And we were talking about the ice storm and so forth in northern Michigan, all the damage that it's caused, and all the trees are down. She says, look, why don't you sell people basically a permit to go cut wood, right? Wood costs $70 to $75 a cord, she points out. Doesn't last all that long. One cord. We use wood to heat our sauna here, so I get that. But if you give people $50, you give them a certain plot of land, you go clear this, you keep all the wood. State makes a little bit of money. You clean up the mess, and people, the consumers, save a pile of money. I thought it was a pretty good idea. Ivy's with me now. I'm not sure what was on her list of things to talk about today, but this just popped up, and I thought, it's not a bad idea. They're responsible for cleaning up the area and getting rid of the brush, and they get to save a pile of money on wood that they might heat with or use for their campfire or whatever.
I love that idea. Come up with some clever
Creative.
ways. Yeah, clever and creative ways to clear deadfalls, or in the case of, an ice storm being up north, cleaning up a lot of that. Now, I think a lot of that was pine, so I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
Maybe for a campfire, that might be okay.
The poplars would be okay, but again, it's not hardwood. A lot of it's not great firewood, but anyhow,
sure.
At least somebody's thinking thinking forward. There you go.
Absolutely. But, I think about northern Michigan, and as we're heading, drive around that area, we often see, bear cages for your trash cans.
Sure.
So, and I think, man, I've never really even seen a bear up here. But apparently they're becoming more common, and they're moving south here in the state of Michigan.
Look, I had a piece of property. I think I told you this. Outside of East Lansing a number of years ago, and I saw a pile of bear scat. I know what bear scat looked. It was gigantic. I took a picture with a $1 bill. It was a big pile, and I looked around where I was standing in this little wood lot that I had at the time, and I know, well, here's a stump over here that's been shredded. Here's a tree over here that's been shredded. I'm like, okay, there's a bear here looking for grubs and bugs, and left his DNA sample right here. Big old pile of DNA sample. And so I called the DNR and said, hey, I'm pretty sure what I'm looking at here. I've got pictures and so on and so forth. They said, we'll be right out tomorrow. Well, tomorrow came after a day like yesterday that we had here. We had torrential downpours. And so they never came out, and I never saw it again, but I'm sure the bear had passed through there.
Oh, sure.
And so it happens.
Oh, absolutely. And just recently there was a sighting in Bath Township. And so the thing is, these young bears look for new territory, so they wander around heading south. And, if they can find a mate and they can find food, then they hang out.
I've always thought, you've got bears in Ohio, just not in the very northern part. And you have bears in Michigan, just not in the very southern part. But I figure at some point,
converge.
Yeah, they're looking for a date. They're trying to find, somebody to get married to for at least a day.
It's always funny. I always see stories, because I grew up in Florida, in Orlando, Florida.
Bears there.
And there's a ton of bears there. You just think with it being so, rural, that you wouldn't have many bears there. But
wolves too. Little wolves, little bears, little deer.
It's true.
Yeah, you got all the key deer. I think they call that one little species of deer called key deer. They're little fellers.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Wildlife. I don't know. But yeah, so Ivy, just so everybody knows, Ivy hates bears. I mean, doesn't hate them per se, but hates them in person. Not a big fan of them. If she went out in the trash can here at the house and there was a bear there, I think she'd be very upset and very not pleasant about it. Just throwing it out there.
I don't know. Yes, I don't like bears. Had a very bad experience while we were hunting bears once. But they don't bother me as much. Black bears, grizzly bears, no. Ooh, very scary.
Yeah.
But, I read this story earlier, and it just shocks me.
What's that?
There's, and not about them being a gay couple, but this gay couple puts up a video online, and it goes viral. And one of the men is a convicted sex offender, and they were given a baby through adoption agency.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does this
that happen? How is that even acceptable?
How do we, I don't know. We actually went to an event last week up in northern Michigan, and you and I always talk about this very sad topic of human trafficking and the abuse of young children, sexually.
Horrible. And all the kids that are missing from the open border mess and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think just what was it? Do you remember the statistic? Just in the last year, there were like 3 or 4 arrests.
Yeah, several.
For men, grown men, going to meet with a young person.
Yeah.
And they were arrested. And this is
As they should be.
in a northern Michigan small town.
It's the Chris Hansen deal, to catch a predator. Chris Hansen from formerly of Channel 10 in Lansing, Michigan, then went on to NBC fame. Yeah.
And it's so scary to me. I just don't understand it at all how, adults, whether it be men or women, target young kids for sexual activity. And, when I look at this story, it's no different. It's like, how does this slip through the cracks? Maybe we need to be a little bit less worried about woke and more interested in, hey, are our children safe? Whether it be in schools or online, or if they're being adopted and they're babies and they have absolutely no control over where they're going. And it's just so important to really think about that, and to think about, that this is such a serious issue in this country.
It is a serious issue, and it's something that needs to be, look, I believe this administration in Washington takes it seriously, but it's something you have to look at the local level, the state level as well.
Absolutely.
The most horrible crime, as you point out. Just the most horrible, and not just that, but, putting them to work in basically slave labor for whatever you're making, too. That happens too often.
Absolutely.
Bad stuff.
And that's something that to be said, I actually mentioned this to you before, which is, we talk about, illegal immigrants coming in and becoming part of the workforce.
Right.
But the reality is a lot of those guys are being underpaid and, because they're cheap.
Slave labor.
Come on, let's be honest, people. Why do you hire them? Because they're really cheap. And they don't have the benefits, and they don't get, the protections that you do.
Correct.
And so we need to actually have that serious conversation. And if the left would stop crying, ICE is bad and this and that. There's a human issue, and there's an illegal issue.
I got to run, Ivy. You're exactly right. You nailed it. Love you. Got to run.
Love you. Thank you.
All right, so a lot of good news when it comes to the economy, it looks like. I mean, look, Trump is bringing investment into this country like I've never seen before, because I don't think it's ever happened before. I'm going to look at futures here, because the futures indicate where we're going. It says the stock market's driven by greed today. It's going to open pretty flat. But the Dow is over 45,000, S&P is over 6,400, the NASDAQ is over 23,500. These are all very good numbers, right? Gold is flat. Gold is at 33.23, so it's, it's about where it's been for the last 2 months. 2 months ago it was at 3,300. Today it's just barely above 3,300. 6 months. It went from 2,800 to 3,300. So it's up $500 in 6 months, but and it's basically up $900 in a year, and over 2 years it's gone up about the same. So gold over 5 years is up 69%. Not bad. 5 years on silver, 62%, but everything seems pretty stable. Let's see where oil is today. Oil, 67 to 70. So in that high 60s to just touching 70%. That's where oil sits today. So you've got that going on. But so I look at things. Where's the gas price today? Let me just check that. I keep checking all these things. Gas down to $3.13. Cheaper than it was yesterday. Cheaper than it was a week ago, cheaper than it was a month ago by a nickel, cheaper than it was a year ago by 40 cents. So gas is good. Everything's looking a little bit better. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you, my friends, can save America. So keep doing what you're doing.